Hey guys, James with you here again today, and we are going to be talking about Achilles tendinopathy management. Now, the Achilles tendinopathy will generally show up in people who are doing high-level activities with their ankles and are stressing out that Achilles tendon a lot. So this is people who are often doing running, for example, whether it be sprinting or longer distance running. You probably see it in more your longer distance runners. But you're also going to see this show up in people who might be a little bit older and have deconditioned and now want to start getting back into activities, particularly walking. A lot of those people who like to walk or have just started walking more are generally going to come in with an Achilles tendon overuse type issue if they're suffering from something. Okay, so now what we're going to do is get into the ways I like to classify the exercises for people who have high, medium and low levels of irritability. I'm generally going to categorize someone as having high, medium or low irritability, and then I'm going to have a look at my exercise plan from there. So how someone presents is basically going to be how I look at what's causing them discomfort when their Achilles starts to cause them discomfort in doing whatever activity it may be. So for example, if I have someone who has high irritability, it's literally going to be if they're trying to go for a walk for 50 or 100 meters and their Achilles starts to really play up. If they can't simply take a step to go up some stairs before their Achilles starts to really flare up. Like if it's flaring up really quickly and with low levels of activity, I would class them as being highly irritable. And then when you go through it all the way down to low irritable, generally means that they can walk and do most things pretty comfortably, but their Achilles starts to flare up when they're doing the activity that caused them to get it in the first place. So for example, if I'm a runner and it doesn't bother me in anything except running, then they're going to be probably low irritability. And then I'm going to categorize their exercise as such to accommodate their levels of irritability. So if I have someone who has high levels of irritability, then I'm going to start them off with either a single leg or a double leg seated calf raise. Now keep in mind this is not an extensive exercise list. You could go to other exercises than just these, but the reason I'm showing you these is because most people I work with generally don't have easy access to things like a leg press or any calf raise machines or a Smith machine or something like that, where you could probably load them or do other variations that are possibly better than these ones. But these are where I like to go for people with very limited equipment. So seated calf raises, I choose single leg or double leg. My ideal would be to go the single leg seated calf raise to start off. If you have to do a double leg seated calf raise, then they're probably extremely irritable, and the recovery time for them is going to be quite prolonged. It may not be, because I have started someone on a single leg seated calf raise before who recovered in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. Who not fully recovered but made their way down to the low irritability, but they're generally going to take a fair bit of time to get themselves from these high levels to these low levels of irritability. So seated calf raise, we're going to be starting off either single or double leg, ideally single leg, and ideally with some load, okay? So if I'm doing like a standing calf raise, I'm going to have my body weight going through my ankle complex, but if I'm doing a seated calf raise, then all of a sudden a lot of my body weight's gone, but I can add a percentage of weight, or what my body weight would be, through some external load. So simply by adding a dumbbell if you have access to them. Not many people have heavy dumbbells, but you can use something like a shopping bag filled with cans, sand, whatever it may be, to add some external load. And then we're going to start off doing this in an isometric fashion. As I discussed before, the isometric fashion, we're going to start to look at either a 10 by 10 second protocol or a 5 sets of 30 second on, 30 second off protocol. And again, if they're extremely irritable, I'd probably want to start more with the 10 on, 10 off, but if they can handle it okay, we'll go with more of the 5 sets of 30 on, 30 off, and try and build that up further. So that's our seated calf raise. I like to do it with some load on the knee as well, just to really force that Achilles tendon to work a bit harder. Now, if you've got moderate irritability, I like to go to a double leg standing calf raise, because the double leg is then going to take away some of the load on that irritable side. So if my left calf is what's causing, my left Achilles tendon is what's causing me grief, I'm then going to do it on both legs just to take away a bit of that load from the left side. And you can either choose to do a straight or a bent knee variation. And obviously a bent knee is going to hit more of that soleus, a straight knee is going to hit more of your gastroc, but regardless, they're both going to hit your Achilles tendon. But I have played around with this just to see what works better for people, and some respond better to a bent, some respond better to a straight knee, so that can be trial and error sometimes, but generally I'll start with a straight knee just because it's easier to do. So double leg standing calf raise. Now we're not going to add load to this one, because our next progression from there is going to be the single leg standing calf raise, again straight or bent knee, and this is when you'd start to add it into someone who's got that low levels of irritability. So single leg standing calf raise, and then you can go plus or minus load. So if they're still a bit irritable and find that doing it or making progress on one leg without having to add load, then great, but once they get to the point of it being quite strong and stable, you're going to have to start adding some external load, and you probably want to give it the capacity that it needs to function without having a flare up down the line once they have recovered. Okay, so that's the overall classification there of how I like to add in exercises based off how irritable someone's condition is with Achilles tendinopathy.